Heather Quick. I am the owner of Florida Women's Law Group, and with me today is our managing attorney, Stacie Drawdy, and we are going to have a really exciting conversation today. And I thought about this topic because so many of our clients have this issue, and it is something I think that you'll see a lot on the web, and so many women are asking, what if I'm divorcing a narcissist? My husband is a narcissist. And you may, hopefully that this will lead you to this video, because we're going to talk a little bit today about some things that happens during the divorce process and some things to look out for and behaviors to understand as they go through it. It's not, always exact, but there are certainly some traits, and we see similarities in patterns, particularly when couples are going through the divorce process. So we're going to have that discussion about things that we've seen and how we advise our clients. And the exciting part is next week we are going to have the same conversation but with a mental health professional. So that will give you both sides so that we can look at from the legal standpoint as well as the mental health standpoint. So Stacie, we were talking earlier, I know you had several questions that we thought our viewers would enjoy, so go for it. Tell me what you got.
Well, I think it would be good to define or outline some of the characteristics that actually define a narcissist.
Okay, that's a good one. And so one of the words that you can see practically in every definition is self, like self-centered, self-absorbed, very selfish, and they really do, they present most likely, and of course this is not a medical diagnosis or psychiatric diagnosis. This is from just so many clients in our experience, tell us things that are going on in their life, and we gather that. So it's somebody who is just very much concerned with themselves, their appearance, and yes, physically, but also how do their friends, family, coworkers view them. It's really important, and it'll be things, sometimes it seems subtle, but it'll be a big deal. And as we get into how that plays out in the litigation, I'll discuss it a little bit more. But they really are more concerned with how everything is affecting them than how things are affecting you. And they rarely, in this setting, which is the legal setting, they rarely have a concern about how it's affecting the children. It's more, how is this affecting me? It's my right to see the children. When the children act that way, it makes me sad. When you act this way, it makes me feel this way. So those are some of the typical conversations clients will share with me about that.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. They certainly look at what's in their self-interest versus what's necessarily in the best interest of the child, like Heather said. So when we are litigating and we have a narcissist on the other side, what are some special challenges that you think they present and that we have to deal with and we can deal with on a daily basis?
So one of the first challenges I think is that our clients, women, come to us and they are really concerned with proceeding forward in the divorce. That initial step, because of the backlash they foresee from their husband who's a narcissist, and so obsessed with himself and how they will be perceived. And I will tell you, ladies, even if he's the one cheating, even if he's the one who wants the separation or divorce, when it comes from you, there is going to be anger, and of course it will always be your fault. Always. They tend very rarely to ever take responsibility for that. So that's usually the biggest challenge, is just for women to even begin to seek out the advice of an attorney and learn how to proceed with this, because we've had so many clients, they're really just afraid of what the reaction. And it could be that there's been a history of emotional and verbal abuse. It's not always physical. In fact, I see more often verbal emotional abuse that has kept a woman in this spot where she just doesn't want to, rock the boat, stir things up, because she knows what that's going to lead to in that conversation. So I find that is the biggest challenge for most of our clients. And, secondly, and I know, Stacie, we've been in these conversations with our clients before, they say, well, I think we'll agree to everything. They believe that, right, about these people?
Sure, they absolutely do.
And it's because, which we'll get to later, they are so convincing. When this type of personality and narcissist, man, they can really sweep you off your feet. They can say all the right things. And despite the fact that you know them very well and there's been this pattern, you're still going to believe it because you want to. I mean, there's nothing wrong and there's no judgment in that. It is absolutely human nature. And I do believe, and maybe even naively so, although I've been practicing law so long, and particularly family law, that most people, the majority of people genuinely would really like for it to be amicable. Because this is a person you once loved, no matter how much you hate them now. It's expensive, it can be drawn out. So I don't think there's anything wrong with you believing what he says. Even though history's going to show you, he doesn't do what he says. And he's telling you that, obviously, to get things the way he wants. So often, I think, we've both heard it, oh, we're gonna agree to everything, I'm sure, because it's going to make so much sense. And he's told me, I'm going to take care of you. We don't need to this is a good one. We don't need to write it in the paper.
We'll just do what we want.
We'll just do what we want. Let me just draw it up. You sign it, I promise.
I'll take care of everything.
That's right. Don't you know I'll take care of you?
Yes.
That is not wise at all. When you come in to see us, we're going to talk about these things, and more often than not, I've had clients, I can tell them after a few minutes, everybody here, all our attorneys will be like, okay, now I can lay out for you what's going to happen next. And a lot of times they're like, oh, you've had clients like this before, where the husband's on the other side. So there are behaviors that just tend to happen.
They recur. You start to see a pattern among certain individuals, and that's what leads you to understand how they're going to react and what they're going to do. And clients are amazed when you say, well, I'm sure he's going to blame it on X, and they're like, he absolutely is going to say that. He's absolutely. So it is something that through experience you really gain a knowledge into how they work and how to work around them and with them and get what you want. So that being said, what suggestions do you give clients who are having to deal with a narcissist while they're going through the process?
So one of the things, as much separation as you can get is very helpful. And, if we can physically, separate you in the residence, that's very helpful. And, limit the contact. As far as telephone, email, text, and when you have children, I know you can't really block them, but we help you with tools as far as in setting some boundaries and guidelines. This is when I'm going to talk to you and not. One of the things that I'll tell you is you cannot control his behavior, and no one can. Nobody can control another human's behavior, but we can control our own. And you can absolutely control the way you react and the way you plan. And that's a big part of what we do with our clients is help them anticipate what's coming and let's plan your reaction. Because just for your own mental health and stability, because they're going to drive you crazy and you're going to be really angry. It's just an emotional roller coaster. And divorce is hard enough without these extreme personalities and things like that. So it's really important to kind of understand how things are going to go and plan accordingly. From a standpoint of, okay, they're going to threaten me with this. And by threat, I know that's the way you receive it because we've had so many clients. So I'm really not alluding to any kind of physical violence. Most of our clients do feel threatened when they say, well, I'm not going to pay you a dime. It's your debt and I'm going to take the kids. And frankly, that is a threat, I think, to any women. And men would feel the same way if you said those things to them. So I think that's a fair representation of that word. But it's all about exerting control and influence so that they get what they want. And it's just to the extreme. Because most humans, and especially in divorce, of course we want what we want,
Mhm.
but it's just an extreme measure. And what I talked about earlier, the patterns, you've got to be the one to break it. You can break your patterns and not react the same way. The one thing that I'm very confident in sharing, because I've just been doing this forever and, witnessed this in humans, just, in my observation of humans. If you break the pattern, they think you will never do anything different, ever. I think that that's just part of it because they are so self-absorbed, but I think actually it's just men in general. They think that their wives are never going to change. And then the wife thinks that they can change their husband. Like, none of that ever happens. But the reality is, they're not going to expect you to stand up for yourself because you never have. Truly. Y'all may fight. I kind of classify them as a bully. And that's just human. Humans, we do that, and especially in our close relationships, we all play a role. And until you're willing, and usually it's because that role doesn't serve you anymore, and it's too painful. And when the pain, exceeds the pleasure, we change. It's in any situation, anything where we make a decision and we make a massive change in our life, it's because we're not going to tolerate it anymore. We're done. We have been pushed to the brink and we say, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Now, then you change, but then you have to keep the change up and the new behavior. And so I talk about that with clients a lot. I know all of our attorneys do say, okay, well, he doesn't expect you to stand up for yourself and fight through this. And it's difficult because it's something new, particularly in that relationship. Even women in very high-powered jobs, man, they handle that job, but then the relationship, you play a different role sometimes, and you've gotten used to that. So it's normal to feel that way, but it's part of what we talk about, okay, and how this firm can help you, because that's our job, to stand up for you when you're feeling like, I can't go through this, I don't want to go to mediation, I don't want a hearing, I am nervous, I don't think I will be as articulate as my husband or as convincing. Those are, you've heard those, I know,
Absolutely,
Stacie.
yes. But that's part of our job, is to educate you and place you in a position so that when you are in court, you are more confident and you do feel like you're getting your point across. So we're really going to fine tune that and educate you as to how you can better yourself, because at the end of the day, you can't control him, but you can control you. So we really do focus on what you can do to put yourself in a better position.
And understanding, because the one thing is really important, is knowing what you're entitled to, what more or less is likely to happen as we proceed through the litigation. It helps you make an informed decision. We're not going to lead you down a path that's, you don't have the opportunity for success. That's really important to us. And we're really also going to encourage you not to settle for less than what the law provides, certainly. And there's give and take with compromise. We spend a lot of time with our clients with that because we really want the best outcome for you. But statements like, I'm not going to pay you and I'll go to jail before I pay you, that's happened, and you would be surprised once they're in jail, they do pay, because that's not a comfortable place to be. So, and I've had a case where that, and that was exactly what he said, and my client said that, and I said, let's just wait and see. Happened to have a very aggressive judge who didn't like people who didn't follow his orders, and he said he issued an order for the sheriff to pick him up. And within 24 hours, we had our check. So that's extreme. So I can't do that on every case. I wish I could. I used to be a prosecutor. I think it's a wonderful way to encourage people or influence them to do what they need to do. But, and they say, I'm never going to pay alimony. If it's a case where that is appropriate, then you need to know that. If it's a case where it's not, you need to know that. So you know how to best negotiate that, because that's the one thing. It's very difficult to negotiate with a narcissist. And one of the things that we do, because mediation is required in all divorces, so we have to go. So let's go with a strategy and a plan to get you where you want to be. And that's a big thing that we talk about a lot.
Finally, I find this, narcissists generally feel a lot of times like they can convince their partner, or that this is the way to go and this is the way the agreement should go. What advice do you have to give to somebody whose husband comes to them and says, forget the attorneys, let's just figure something out that works for us together?
Well, I really caution you to ever do that. If you have property, any assets whatsoever, or children, and a husband who fits that profile, keep in mind when we were defining everything about them, they're self-centered, selfish, self-absorbed, so they're clearly looking out for their own best interest. And I think there are ways to come to an agreement. We represent women all the time, and it's not contested. So when it's an uncontested and you guys have both agreed, let us look at it, draft it, one, to make sure it's done correctly. Because if it's not, it can be really difficult and costly to go back and fix it. It's like, do it right the right time, the first time. And then you can at least be advised. I mean, there's only been 2 instances where I had a client, and we did, and I know Autumn had one, and Anna, and they really just wanted to do things that we really couldn't advise, to do. I mean, we're all for compromise, but this was really extreme, to the point where we said, I don't think that we can represent you because this is so against your interest. And that's really extreme again, but it helps kind of bring home the point that there's always a room in the middle where we can negotiate and agree. And you have to ask yourself, why does he say, we only need one attorney, let me get the attorney? Well, why can't you have an attorney? It doesn't mean you want to fight. It means you want to be informed and make sure you're making the right decision, because so much can be at stake, and you're not going to be able to change it. It is really painful for attorneys because we really want to help people, and for you to come to us with a judgment, an agreement that you've signed, and we can't help you. I mean, it's really terrible, because we're like, you got such a bad deal. You agreed to something, and we really can't change it. We'll look for all kind of ways, but the law is very specific, and it's pretty harsh. If you're going to sign an agreement to something and then a judge has signed it, you're not going to have many options. So it's better to at least get the advice up front and begin to change that pattern so that you have the opportunity for a great future. It's really awful for women to say, oh, 3 or 4 years. Usually maybe not right then, because you're so happy to be away. You're so happy to be free. But then in a year or two, it's the regret, and it's like, I can't believe I walked away from all of that, and he's moved on with his life, and
he's still living the same exact life, and my life is cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of a bad agreement. And a lot of times there's nothing you can do once it's signed. A contract is a contract, and Florida likes to uphold contracts. So it's better to get that done first, and it's usually less costly to get it done initially correct.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of, pay it on the front end and then have peace in mind and know that you made the best decisions, because your future is at stake financially. And a lot of times emotionally, if you have children involved, there's just so much that one of the judges here in our area, he said, because he sees people all the time representing themselves, and he's like, I don't understand it. I think it's the worst thing ever. Would you go into the hospital and operate on yourself? You could read a book and figure that out, but would you really do that?
Right.
And individuals don't equate the legal system like that, but we have our own language, our own rules. There's so many nuances that it's so important to protect yourself, and you're worth it. And despite maybe if you're hearing a lot of talk, like you're not worth it, you're not getting anything, that's my retirement, my house, my kids, at least find out. Most of the time what they're telling you serves them and their purpose. So you need someone to give it to you straight and let you know, kind of, hey, this is what really is how it'll happen. But that takes courage. Don't you think,
Absolutely,
Stacie?
it does. And we're here to support you and educate you and hopefully have you get the best result possible.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. Stacie Drawdy, Heather Quick with Florida Women's Law Group. And next week, we are going to be talking with psychologist Mercedes McGowan. And we work with her a lot. We refer a lot of clients. She testifies in court. And we're going to have this discussion with her. And I'm hopeful that you'll really enjoy it because she's going to give it to you the advice and perspective from a mental health professional. So that despite all of our experience, it lacked that part of it. So I encourage you to watch. Please subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and follow us, and then you'll know when the next video is coming up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.